I'm one of the co-organizers. Unfortunately, Mika couldn't join us today. She wasn't feeling well. And our host for tonight is going to be Nico Levy. Probably most of you guys know Nico.
Recording
already.
in progress.
And Emil is going to be recording the event. So I'm going to let Nico move forward and hope we can chat later and see who's coming to IBC next week.
Yeah, great, JP. Thank you so much. So for our first talk today, we have Victoria Vitaly from Elecard. I just before everyone gets into the Zoom call, we should try some slides, and I can say it will be a really interesting presentation about all the behind the scenes of the technical challenge they had on the FIFA World Cup. I saw a lot of pictures and a lot of stuff. I would say, oh, that should be a great time, to watch soccer. And it's great, and also mix it with video. So please, Victoria, if you want to share and start your presentation.
Of course. Let me share it. Okay, welcome to our presentation. Welcome to the soccer stand. Yeah, what we are enthusiastic about sharing is about our experience at FIFA World Cup and about the challenges that we encountered on site, because it's like a very long story short that we would like to share with you guys. So, like some words about speaker, we will have Vitaly, who's the head of technical support department, and he is involved in FIFA World Cup since 2018, I guess. Vitaly, correct me if I'm wrong. And also,
yes, you're right. Hello, everyone.
hi. And also, I will have Vitaly back up him in some questions regarding some business and support questions. We will cover our project for cable TV and IPTV, and also we will talk about challenges and their resolution, how we came out with the final decision about these challenges, and of course we'll sum up what we've done. Let's go ahead. Vitaly, I give you the floor.
Yes, hello everyone again. And I want to start from what we have actually done during the World Cup. Since we are under NDA, I cannot tell you all the details, but I'm pretty sure you will get the whole structure, the whole point. One of our main purposes, main tasks during this event was streaming from cameras directly to Media Tribune with the ultra low delay, the lowest delay as possible. And this time it was 200 milliseconds. It's some kind of record, and it was like requirements from FIFA. And I believe probably only one vendor could succeed with this requirement, and you know this vendor. What was the case in this scenario? When something is happening at the pitch, the commentator should see almost the same picture without any glitches with a high quality at his TV set at Media Tribune to make some commentaries on the fly. In case if he needs to check some offside, he needs to check some tactical camera, or he needs to check some repeats of the scene that happened at the pitch. He needs to get this information at the same time with what happening at the pitch. So this was our task to produce this picture, not with just low delay, low latency for digital video broadcasting in cable, but with as high quality as possible. So Vicky, please, next slide.
Sure.
In other projects, The total sum of the whole project's total number was about 6, I believe. Number 2 was IPTV streaming for more than 40 locations. We have been streaming about, I believe, 27 channels. It was like satellite channels. It was live from venues. It was live from stadiums, live from different cameras. The task was to transcode the channel with latency not more than 1 second and deliver to all of the FIFA venues, let's say media center, let's say some training center, two markets, to some, let's say, trading malls, and the picture should be 4K resolution with the support of HDR. So it should be like you see it in real life without any glitches and with pretty high quality with 50 frames per second. So we did almost the same like we have done with a digital broadcast for cable, but in this case we have used IP stack and different protocols like UDP, SRT with a full redundancy and HVC streaming directly to STB. So it was like our second task at this event. Vicky, next slide.
Sure. Okay, the journey starts.
Yeah, the actual stuff that I wanted to share with you was like actually what kind of challenges you meet even if you are totally ready for such event like World Cup. The answer is you never know. I had experience during last World Cup, and the issues and the challenges I have met this time was totally different. Let's say I was responsible for Lusail Stadium. It was like 10 matches, and this stadium, I believe, was the most popular for Argentina squad for World Cup champions. And yeah, I have seen Messi several times, but the mess was actually behind the pitch, behind the scene. And one of the first challenges I have met that during the match day, actually, before, let's say, 1.5 hour before the match, I couldn't get any SDI, it's like raw input from the camera, neither good resolution, neither good format. And I've tried to understand what's going on. I was in contact with a technical officer, technical center, and the funny thing that has happened that all the staff main responsible for the feeds for this DVB cable broadcasting for Media Tribune, for commentators, for journalists, has been replaced. So the contact was changed. It was not like the man I have talked through the, let's say, more than 10 days in a row. It was like a new girl, and she didn't understand what I expect from her. But the point was I hadn't any feed for my headend at your picture until 40 minutes before the match. It was like a mess. I was in contact with different persons and tried to understand what's going on, uh, why I don't receive this, and when I succeeded with the receiving of the input signal, they were in totally different formats. And it took quite a long time to negotiate and agree on the input format. And after that, I have reconfigured all of the transcoding system, modulator system for receiving and actual normal transcoding of the output. So basically, this challenge was closed successfully and we have moved forward.
And you said like about 40 minutes before, right? You resolved
Yes,
it.
exactly. 40 minutes before the start whistle, there were no feed at Media Tribune. So it was like a too high adrenaline rush. And anyway, we have done this, and it was like a first and small piece of the whole challenges that we will meet again.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's proceed with the next one.
Yeah, the next one was kind of also funny request for me. Funny, it's not like it caused smile, but it caused like a fear and a smile, since there is pretty mm, uh, you can't do much, especially during match day, since any configuration changes is strictly prohibited. But for me, it wasn't match day, it was match day -1. It means that the day before the actual match. So I have got requests, not only me, like main responsible for broadcasting at Lusail Stadium, but every one of my colleagues who were responsible for all of the other stadiums, that we need to change the all the I believe at least 2 of the names of the channels and change an order. For you to understand, to proceed with this, we needed to change not only order of the feeds, SDF feeds, and this stuff at your screen, like capture board, but also change the order and the name of channels inside encoder, inside modulator, and inside television set. So it was like several hours, man hours of work, and uh, except beside except this, we needed to check everything once again, and we probably would be forced to work during all the night. So it was like mm, some kind of fantastic for me, and I have contacted with several guys who were responsible for this schedule, and we have made a talk and discussed all the risks and pros and cons for this kind of approach, since everything was pre-configured in advance. Let's say 1 week before, even before the matches have been started, and we have agreed that all these efforts and all these risks are not worth it, and risks are pretty high, and humans can make mistakes, and we have uh, remained we have left as it is all the order of the channels and all of the names, and proceeded with this through all the World Cup. Actually, it was like a full copy of the matches in comparison with the World Cup, which was before. So it was like actually the same. So I didn't change anything, but it took some negotiations and agreements on different levels.
Okay, let's go ahead. How about this one?
Yeah, the second challenge was like expansion of media, and not Media Tribune, but actually the main point that I was responsible for expansion of Media Tribune. Let's say at the start of World Cup, Lusail Media Tribune, it's like at your screens, it's like a tribune for journalists, for media stuff. It was like, I believe, 400 TV sets or like this. And during the final match, it was like 700. So it should be doubled. And due to the difficult schedule, let's say before round 16, and best of 16. I believe 8 teams should go further. We had a small window where we had to expand the tribune almost twice. It's not only to put television sets there and that's it. It means that you needed to put desk there, you need to put cables, you need to put power, you need to put create Ethernet network, etc., etc. So it was like 24 hours with a teamwork with a different subcontractors, and our part was the last. So we were independence of these subcontractors, and we agreed to work in a team to create some common chats, to divide the job. Let's say left half of the tribune is in progress with this team, another half of tribune is in progress with this team, and we even negotiated not inside our team but between teams, and we have changed each other even inside our team, and all together we have done it during 24 hours, even earlier, to expand the tribune twice. So it was like a pretty interesting stuff when you needed to cooperate with totally different teams, totally different cultures, nationalities, like approaches, requirements. But anyway, it was like a one big target, one big task, and we have done this successfully.
So you helicoptered there, right? Like
Exactly.
yeah. Okay. Okay, yes. This
Yeah, it's an
looks
example of
interesting.
yeah, it's like a typical example of a standard case, like everything has worked fine the day before, yes, and now everything has gone wrong. I have a match day today. Um, I believe it was 7 p.m. and when I have come at my workplace, I've noticed that one of my television, I believe it's media center, like dining room for journalists, doesn't work. I try to find out what has happened actually, and found that there is no Ethernet link at STB. The funny stuff is that even if I know MAC address, but it's not enough information for network guys to localize this issue, since they don't see this STB at their network route, right? So the funny thing is that the link was lost, Ethernet link, for unknown reason, and the patch UTP cable is hidden under the floor. So there is no way to find out what has happened to this cable actually. So I've spent about 2 hours with the different subcontractors, including network guys, including the main manager for IT, venue IT manager, right? To identify what has happened, to find the reason, and to recover the link, since all this TV has got the picture via STB, but STB has been playing IPTV stream. So no Ethernet links is equal to no picture at all. It was like a funny stuff, since you're pretty in the same boat with all of the stuff, you're doing the same thing, but you're responsible for this particular picture. You are responsible for the coverage, for broadcasting. And in this case, even if it doesn't, this issue is not in your like responsibility zone, but you should act like a team player anyway, to connect some different departments, to organize them, to communicate with them, and to find out what actually has happened. So we have fixed everything, and the link was like 3 hours before the match, even 4, I believe. And it was pretty fine. It was like one of the typical scenarios for this World Cup.
Yes, I see. Okay, how about this one?
And believe the last in the list, but not least, was like a mess with the television set. What has happened actually? Before the World Cup, some, let's say, Confederations Cup can happen, or like Preparation Cup can happen, where you test all of the stuff. Software, hardware, different teams, like different vendors. But in this case, the Preparation Cup was held only for one stadium. And we hadn't got any ticket during this Preparation Cup. Everything was properly tested, was pretty fine. So the 1 year later, the task was to reproduce everything but for 8 stadiums, and including television sets, actually. So the certain brand, the certain model, the certain like appearance, right? The certain motherboard, engine, chipset is like reserved and already inside some documents, some documentations, and you cannot change them. But this TV set actually has worked fine. It delivered a proper latency, delivered a proper quality. But what's happening actually in real life? I'll tell you. You've got at 5 of, I believe, of 8 stadiums, at 5 stadiums, not proper TV set model. What does it mean? It means that the total delay is higher than in requirements. And when you test it, it's actually it doesn't seem so, right? So you never know that something has been changed, since the appearance of this model is actually the same. But for us, it was a big surprise that the engine of this TV was different. Why it has happened? Because the supplier didn't have enough television set for this model. But another model has worked for other championships, and it just supplied with actually, for his point of view, actually the same TV that has worked in other championships with much lower requirements for picture, for quality of the picture, for latency, right, for resolution, and etc. When we have found out, we tried to make different scenarios for encoders and test it with the new TVs to get the same low latency, since it was much higher with these television sets. We have spent, I believe, almost 1 week trying to play with the different settings of encoder and modulator to actually meet a total new requirements, since we could not change these television sets that were already supplied to 5 of the stadiums. So to order other television sets was impossible. So in our case, we needed to actually do something close to impossible to remain in the current requirements, but do this whole stuff with a totally other engine of the TV sets. And after 1 week of work, in pretty close contact with our developers, with our technical team, during, let's say, 100 tests for quality and for latency, we have found out the good and working stable scenario to achieve these pretty high requirements for these new models of television sets. And like everybody was happy, and we have done actually something close to impossible, especially during the World Cup. During not preparation phase, but during ongoing project.
Great. Thank you, Vitaly. And some sum up point?
Sum up point for me, this World Cup was pretty different from the World Cup before, since for me, not hard skills were decisive, like have done the main job, not like your knowledge, your experience, your education, but the possibility, the advantage, the like ability to communicate, to agree on some point, to negotiate, to create the teams at the pitch, near the pitch, inside the stadium, to create a team from actually different departments and from different subcontractors, but all of them are united for the one big task, one big purpose, to deliver this holiday and this pretty huge event to the people, to staff, to FIFA guys, to everywhere who was like during this event, who was inside this event, to every like visitor. And for me, teamwork was like number one like feature of an engineer who had come to this event to create a stable, without any losses, issues, broadcasting, and to deliver stable and high quality to end user. So to conclude, soft skills and ability to communicate was like number one priority during this event, and this stuff has solved all of the issues, or at least most of them, during the FIFA World Cup on site.
Thank you. And
It was a
smiling thanks
pleasure.
us.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Vitaly.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much. I don't know if you're just finishing or.
Yes, we are
Yeah,
done.
perfect. Oh, thank you so much. So claps for you. I
Thank you.
I think I have a better name for this presentation. It's like Murphy's Law.
Yes, exactly.
Really, it's incredible all the stuff that can happen in an event like that. It's like uh, I uh, I feel like all the anxiety about being in that moment. It should be really hard to be in your shoes for such an amazing event. So
exactly.
yeah, for
You
sure.
don't even have a chance to imagine that you can lose something. You can just not succeed. You just in the moment, right now, and pretty much it depends on you.
Yeah,
And
sure.
all I could just think about was how to approach this goal, how to finalize this task, and actually all the adrenaline, all the emotions were after the task was concluded, the task was finished. But it was pretty unique experience, since it's like, oh, we have been preparing for, let's say, 4 years for this event, but it's 40 minutes before the match and I don't have broadcasting. What
Yeah,
a mess.
you're
I
a hero.
couldn't even imagine my like nightmares.
Yeah, you're a hero. So great. Thank you so much for your presentation. I don't know if we
Thank
have
you.
some questions, but as maybe we have to go now with Javier's talk because of timing, just to take care of timing. And if anyone has a question or something, just write it on the chat, and maybe we have some minutes after Javier's talk. Also, we can cover those. So thank you so much. And Javier, now from Barcelona Video Tech, is going to present to us his talk about sex, lies, and videotapes. So thank you, Javi, for being here, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thanks. Well, this presentation is one I did for the ComCon 23, and I'm going to try to do it a bit faster. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you're presenting all the browser.
Do you see now the ComCon page? No.
You see that it's loading.
And then not. Wait. Okay. Wait. And now?
Perfect.
Okay, so let's start with today we are going to talk about the truth behind your CDN logs in a very movie nerdy title, which is very catchy and gave me a top ranking on the IBC talks of last year. Like I think it was the third most watched. So one recommendation, try to put always clickbaits in your name. This one was accidentally, but after that, I'm going to try to do that. So I think most of people might know me, but in case you don't, well, I've been here for a while. I also teach at the Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona, one of the organizers of the Barcelona Video Tech Meetup. I'm a huge football fan of the best football club in the world. And I have a huge collection of music vinyl, and I love playing old video games. I have also been very active in the community. I try every year to have new presentations, and yeah, I've been here for a while. So the first question, what's a CDN? Just in case somebody doesn't know. So it's the content delivery networks. This is something that it works for every website. It's also something we use a lot in video when we deliver video. Basically, it's just a way of putting middle servers between the origin and the final server where you want to send a video. And in these servers, you cache the content just to make it more efficient and cheaper and faster, because the distance also matters. So this presentation, I'm going to try to cover a lot of common issues and some industry secrets, just in case some of you don't know. One of the first is when we see a lot of errors, sometimes we forget about the basic CDN theory. And one very classic, it's when you are delivering to a low number of viewers against when you are delivering a big concurrency. So despite people would think that the most problems happens when you have a big concurrency, it's the opposite. It's when you have low viewers, like in late hours in the night or things like that. And this happens because, as I said, because of the basic CDN theory, because the content is not cached, because you have to do longer connections. So it's very common that most of CDN providers can give you more errors or a higher percentage of errors when you have a lower number of viewers. This is an example of big concurrency where everything was working perfectly. So another issue that sometimes I've seen, and when this happened, the problem was basically in our customers. So this is when you find hardly a daytime pattern issues. Like, for example, let's say like you are always having problems like the Thursday night and you don't know why. So in this case, the problem is on you. The problem is on you. So when you have any kind of common problem that always happens with a daytime or a hourly pattern, like normally are the peak times, and here the problem is that your infrastructure is not able to escalate properly. So sometimes people don't want to recognize their errors, but this happens to a lot of broadcasters and video-on-demand platforms. If they have this error, it's a bad deploy or bad infrastructure or not able to scale the fast as they can or so. So this is really fun. The 4 a.m., the darkest hour. So what happens at 4 a.m.? So the 4 a.m. is a classical maintenance window in a lot of data centers, POP, NOCs, like anywhere where there's a server, and especially even if you work with the cloud, because as you know, as the joke, the cloud is someone else's computer. So at 4 a.m., as it's a maintenance window, a lot of things can happen. So what means maintenance? It can be a reboot, it can be a backup, it can be doing some connection and disconnection. So it's very common that you can see a lot of errors at this time. Plus, don't forget that we have also the lower viewers thing, that maybe at 4 a.m. it's the hour where you have a really low number of errors. So it's possible that at 4 a.m. the percentage of errors get really high. But this is, as I said, because it's the classic maintenance window. Plus, I cannot tell you the provider, but one of the top 5 CDN providers were watching my talk, and after the talk, he came to me and said, "Yeah, Javi, you are right, the 4 a.m., yeah, on the first Sunday of the month, we do a backups, and we don't know why, but everything gets broke. Please don't tell anyone." So I cannot tell the name, but I mean, it's confirmed. So getting back to the basic CDN theory, and as I said, the distance matters. So it's not the same when you are not catching properly or when the connection is really far away. Even we always talk about high internet speeds, that we all live connected, but the truth is that sometimes this still happens, and maybe sometimes a bad routing. We had one scenario with a customer in Brazil that for some strange reason or some misconfiguration, they were sending like the video first to a server in the States and then back to Brazil. So obviously there were a lot of problems and a lot of errors, and it was due to these delays. Another thing, our beloved friends, the ISPs, the internet services providers. So most of the times they work pretty well. But the thing is, when they fail, it's always because they have some wild firewall rules or whatever. But I mean, if you have the doubt when you find something and you are almost pretty sure that the ISP is the guilty one here, go and mail them and go for them, go chasing them, because probably like 100% of the times, if you think the error is on the ISP, it's on them. Doesn't happen quite often. And also because the ISPs, normally they are really big multinationals, they have this kind of system that they do what we say in Spanish, balones fuera, like they don't assume things, and they have like typical answers for these cases, like, have you rebooted your computer, or shitty phrases like that. So it's really difficult to get to them to recognize the error and fix it. So it's really important to reach to them as fast as you can when you are pretty sure that the problem is happening there. And now we are going to see some recommendations I give for good practices. So this is what I've created, like the 10 CDN commandments in homage to Notorious B.I.G. So let's get with that. The first of all, always be redundant, and as much as you can. even if you can be redundant with encoders, you can be redundant with connections. Every time you should try to be redundant and have always a backup signal for everything. And related with the same concept of being redundant, one big recommendation if you are a broadcaster or video on demand platform, live platform or whatever, is to have a multi-CDN configuration. Normally, people think that this is sometimes expensive or it's harder to maintain, but reality is that this is quite important because it's the same concept as redundancy. When something is wrong, you just take it off the mix. So with multi-CDN is the same. If for some reason you don't have something well configured with one CDN provider, or that CDN provider is failing, or whatever happens there, you can just switch it off, fix it, and while you fix, just put it back online. So it's really important to have the multi-CDN configuration. Another error we do in the industry, sometimes even myself, is that we don't have a proper way to get the alarms or get the alerts when something gets wrong. The best way should be like have a specific channel. It doesn't matter if it's email, Slack, even phone messages or whatever, but just to have one dedicated channel to the alarms. Why? Because sometimes we get a lot of known alarms or warning messages at the same time of the alarm, or when you have all this kind of mix of information, sometimes you don't pay attention when the big alarm or the big problem happens. So, and this is not only in the video industry, this is in every software company. Nobody is configuring properly the alarms. I include myself in the past. And it's a simple recommendation, but if you really are able to do it and to have everything really straightforward, it can help you a lot. So you have the specific channel and you have these kind of different error levels like info, debug, warning, or it doesn't matter how much do you want to have, but just to have the errors, like the big important things, in a separate channel. So you pay attention exclusively to that. Another example. So, and probably Vitaly later will tell us that this is true, but you need to test everything, and even testing, problems can happen. So one thing I've seen in the industry that sometimes people don't test the production environment before going live. So this is something you really need to do. You need to test as much as you can if you want to avoid errors when you are doing a live stream, a live event, or releasing a new content on a VOD platform or whatever. Wait. So, and obviously, when you are teaching your interns, one of my CDN commandments is to test always with the Big Bang Bunny video. Now we go with the second part. One question people have in the industry is, how shall we monitor the CDN or our full delivery? Like, we do synthetic monitoring, real user monitoring, or both? My answer to that question is that it depends on your budget. Like, if you are a big broadcaster or a big VOD platform, you work with multi-CDN configuration, so maybe you want to have synthetic monitoring, so you can get pretty on detail on the CDN details, like if something's happening on the edge or something's happening in a specific region, or whatever. But obviously, the real user monitoring, and by this I mean the companies like Max and Po, like the companies where they have plugins that you install in the video player. If you don't have enough budget, obviously I would recommend the real user monitoring. Why? Because you are going to get a lot of final user information, and not only on the technical side, but also on the business side. And this is quite important. If you have a lot of budget, go for both. I mean, obviously, as much as you can follow the video delivery, it will be quite important. Regarding with this, I've created my own law. So this is what I've experienced in the past, and this is like if we have to choose where the origin of the problems are, I would say 95% it's on the CDN. In defense of the CDN providers, we must admit that the work they do is quite difficult. It involves a lot of algorithms, a lot of servers. It's something that it's not easy at all. On the other side, there's always if there's the part that there are most steps and more servers sending bytes, it's more easy that the loss of packages happen. And when there's a loss of packages, that will involve ending in a startup error, or maybe having some delay that will generate another kind of error or whatever. Then another type of error that I've seen a lot in the industry is the encoding or problems in the packaging. I mean, before the CDN, because when the problems happen here, you just get false positives. Like you get the full video, you are delivering, you see there's a flow, you think everything's correct, and maybe some glitches appear or things like that. So in this case, you need some video quality analyzer tools or things like that. And then there's the other issues that it doesn't represent a big percentage, but these ones, when they happen, you get more crazy because you don't find them. So maybe a new release of a video player, some user using an old legacy device with an old browser, or maybe an ISP with a firewall for certain bandwidth, your own deploy of software that you have got errors and everything gets broke and you don't know why. I mean, that's the other stuff. And one of the things in the future regarding with all the monitoring, and I'm really happy that today we have Will here, is the CMCD. The CMCD, everybody in MonteVIDEO Tech should know, it's an open specification by the CTA Wave that involves adding login information inside the URL. So this, you can get a lot of info from errors that can happen in the middle servers in the CDN and so. But my approach is that I think, it's my point of view, but I think what this will become in the future, it will become in people being able to be their own Max or NPO or whatever. Like, we are now starting with CDN, but maybe in the future you can have all this information inside your own or your own interpreter in the video player, send it to yourself, very detailed logs, or start like differentiating the kind of error. So I think this is going to be a game changer in the future. So just put an eye on it. As I said before, when something is wrong, the path forward is quite easy. Remove problematic CDN of the mix so you can deliver the video to all your users. It's all about the headers. Another thing is that the problem, sometimes we don't understand where we need to find the information or where we need to detect where the issues are happening. And it has been always there, and it's always there. It's in the headers. So sometimes we really need to take attention on detail of things, because sometimes we already have the information, but we are just omitting it. And as I said, so as you are delivering the video and you are in the meanwhile checking the information from the headers, once you know where all the errors, you just can fix it, nobody notices. And then you do a release, you add again the problematic CDN or whatever was making you problems, nobody knows, so you get the beer and you enjoy life. To end the presentation, I have two use cases of good practices. One is the sport that has a big match that I don't have the rights to mention, and I cannot say the broadcaster nor the year, but you can imagine. It has a really big concurrency. I think it was 4.1 million concurrent viewers, something like that. So in this case, they had something quite similar to the things Vitaly talked about the FIFA World Cup. So 2 hours before the event, some really weird errors started to happen in one edge server that was serving the video to the US East Coast, to New York, Miami, and all the coast. In this case, they had everything redundant, they had already tested, and not only redundant, but they also had like some kind of cross connections, like from encoder A and B, so B goes to next point A, and then everything goes to next point B. Like they had this kind of everything crossed, so when something got wrong, everything was switchable quite easy, and they did. And the result is that this is something really internal that nobody knows that it happened, but it happened. Like the people inside the broadcaster, they knew. And the other use case, this is with Peacock, one live video platform. I think it's number 4 in the US in number of subscriptions, like considering VOD platforms too, if I remember well. In their case, they had multi-CDN configurations, but they had a small misconfiguration errors between the different CDN providers. But they were testing even production environment, so when they detected this in production before going live and launching the new service, they were able to fix it, and they had a really huge success with everything on green. That's the classical we say when everything is working well. The day of the release. So as I said, in this case, in the 2 use cases, they had synthetic monitoring and real user monitoring, redundant and multi-CDN configuration. They had alarms properly configured, tested everything, even production environment. And when you have a problem with the CDN, just take the problematic CDN of the mix, keep delivering video, fix while meanwhile nobody notices. The conclusion of this industry, everybody lies. Everybody lies, you cannot trust anybody, so you really need to trust your logs and your machines so you can detect everything. And now the typical slide, but in this case, no, it's not that I'm hiring, it's that I'm open to opportunities, so if you heard something, just tell me. And that's it.
Bravo, Javi.
Great. Thank you so much. Claps for you. So everyone lies. I will keep that in mind. I don't know if we have
Yes.
some questions or something from the audience.
I'm certainly in for the beer part.
Yeah. I was thinking also about Javi. It's a great insight about the 4 a.m. stuff. And also thinking about a lot of standards now that also CTA Wave is working on, like streaming media tracing, you know, to have like breadcrumbs on all the segments or stuff from this, you know, from getting from the player, and also maybe with content steering, like all the life is going to be like better, you know, content steering to change, say the player, hey, change CDN or stuff like that. So I think it will be a brighter, the sun will bright somewhere, but we're going to have a better life. So yeah, thanks a lot for all that. Any question from anyone from the audience?
Just a comment that I like how you mentioned that whenever you think that the problem is coming from outside and not from your systems such as ISPs, I like the recommendation of acting fast, although you're not completely sure it's them, but you have like the intuition, because maybe you are way too deep into the problem and it's 40 minutes before the game and you want to solve the problem, but the process of getting them to do something may take 2 or 3 hours or 2 days. You don't know. So I like that one. Thank you.
So great. We round out of time. Just to be, people have to do other stuff, just not hearing us. So thank you
Thank you,
very much,
everyone.
Javi, and thank you very much, Victoria, also for being here, and Vitaly,
Thank you.
for all your presentations were awesome. So thank you so
Thank you.
much,
Thanks,
and
Nick.
yep, see you next time.